How goes Rachel Mercer?
Pretty good. You
Yeah,
just sat on a panel this morning, right?
it was about
It,
just the
right,
future of music.
like
Um,
festivals and series.
well, no, it's just about I, where the city is at.
Okay.
What can the government do for presenters in terms of lowering their taxes? Um, how to stay engaged with audiences. And actually, we had a pre-meeting yesterday, and I brought up this. I mentioned that, and 2 weeks ago, my obsessive self-reflection just changed dramatically from um, the question of my survival and the survival of the arts to trying to understand, my role and my relevance, as a practitioner of Western classical music,
Yeah, totally.
in a society that's multicultural and multiracial. And um, yeah, and I've been kind of obsessed with that. And it's crazy that it's taken this crisis. It's been an issue
Yeah.
for years here, right? With funding and it's yeah, it's embarrassing that it's taken this crisis for me to really get it, or understand the urgency of doing something. And believe me, I recognize better than anyone how difficult it is for classical musicians,
Hmm.
to really understand that, because what we do is what we do. Um,
You mean to understand?
well, to understand the importance of diversity and inclusion, and like I've had like a couple of huge epiphanies. I'm still trying to sort it all out and unpack all of it. It's such a complicated
Yeah.
issue, and I don't understand a lot, but a couple of things have really hit me. One, like I've always been resistant. Like I always felt very passionately that there was little place for politics in art, you know?
Hmm.
And even like the last conversation that we posted with Daniel Brooks, that came up, and I said as much, like I've always felt that, um, a defining characteristic of great art is universality, right? Something that speaks directly to the human condition and has nothing to do with cultural, that transcends all the cultural barriers, right? And also that art should be asking questions rather than giving answers. And
Hmm.
of course, I get it. Like there's a wealth of um, political theater and literature, and I've presented 2 shows on protest music. I get it, but to me that was always about the words. And
Hmm.
as a classical musician, who is steeped in instrumental music, I always thought that somehow the potential for art to affect people wordlessly was more powerful than words, because it speaks to the soul first, and to the brain second.
So, I mean,
um,
to diverge from the current issue. So, how would you put in context Shostakovich and Prokofiev, the works that they wrote?
no, for sure, but
Supposedly.
yeah.
No, I'm just curious. What?
Well, no, for sure. Like I've always recognized that, um, in difficult times, art can't be anything but political, right? That you can't separate um, the oppression that you're experiencing from your self-expression, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I don't know. As a performer, not a creator, I don't know. Maybe it's just an escape for some. I'm not sure.
an escape? What do you mean by like?
Like, I
Oh,
mean,
oh, art. I see.
Like Mozart, who suffered, yet he
I
plays
see.
that,
I
he
see.
writes that music, which doesn't match
I
the
see. Hit
human
the
experience. I'm just curious, like, how that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the realization that I had in my 50s, I'm embarrassed to say, is just realizing that everything is political depending on your perspective, you know, and that justice and injustice are as universal as anything. This, do you know what I mean? Um, that it's not
Justice and justice is universal. You mean that
we all
react the same
exactly.
ways?
I think so. To the idea of justice and injustice, I think it's something every human being can relate to. Don't you?
I have no idea. These days, I mean, I question everything that I think. Any instinctive thought or feeling that comes, I question. I question it.
Like these days, as opposed to ordinarily. And
Ordinarily, I question a lot of stuff, but right now, anything that I'm thinking about these issues, and I really am trying to think, what's behind this reaction. What you know, trying to really search if why I react or think the way I do about something.
it's been a rich time that way for sure. Like it's really been preoccupying me.
Yeah, and there's so many things to think about and learn about, and just hear other perspectives that haven't been coming at us the way that they are now, and they maybe always should have been.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'd like to think that this is different. You know, I mean, when I think of all the horrible things that have happened, like in the States and here, you know, all the, I mean, more so in the States, you know, black people being killed by the police or mass shootings like Sandy Hook, and people get pissed off and they blow off steam and then it's forgotten, you know, and life goes on. And I really hope that this is different, you know, that this won't lose steam.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was curious, you know, as a classical musician, how what you thought about it, you know.
I mean, I think for a while now, I've realized that, you know, Bach is this, a composer to us classical people, and a lot of people, but to some human ears, it would just be gibberish. So like, I'm very aware of that. So I don't feel that. I mean, I've heard people. I wish that some music would transcend everything. The works that I love in a deep way because of having been learned them and lived with them all my life. But I realize that not some things I think are universal, like rhythm.
Yeah,
Every human being feels them, and some kind of like beat. That's, I think, totally a human universal thing. But I wish the great classical tradition works transcended everything, but I don't know if they do.
yeah, I don't know either. You know, or you know, I'm questioning things now that I never questioned before.
Hmm.
Um, what's happening at the with the orchestra? Any developments in terms of the next season or?
Yeah, we of course, no one knows exactly how things are going to unfold as everything starts opening again as it is now. And of course, there are plans for we're still working now, like we still all do a lot of teaching, and we're creating video content. There's partnerships with education initiatives, like I think we have a group working with the Orchestre de la Francophonie next week or in a couple of weeks to do kind of mock auditions. You know, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. I sat on a bass audition panel, like a online virtual panel, which was supposed to happen anyways this last weekend. We were supposed to do a bass weekend in Ottawa with Joel Corrington, Toronto now, and the principal of the OSM. And we were going to bring together a whole bunch of young, talented bass players and do a workshop with them. So that went online. So a lot of teaching and videos, and you know, we've started to have meetings about what can happen in the fall. And you know, there's a timeline of, based on Ontario's guidelines, like what can happen. But I think it'll be like getting into our big hall. Southern Hall is. That's not going to happen soon. I mean, it would be amazing if it happened in some way in September, but it's hard to know now how things are going to unfold. But of course, members of the orchestra, we do porch concerts and our video concerts, and now, you know, you can have a chamber group kind of outside, spaced apart. So maybe in a couple months that'll change by the time we would have normally gone back to work, which is the beginning of September. So we're hoping that we can provide, you know, some kind of concert and some kind of venue by September. Definitely, unlikely it'll be the full orchestra. Yeah, but yeah, it's so different from in Germany. My sister's already back.
I know, but in
know?
Germany, the arts are so much more heavily subsidized by the government. You know, they can afford to, you know, go into the theater and play for a quarter of the audience, or
yeah, I mean, her orchestra, the Frankfurt Radio, is a special case because they're the radio orchestra, and it's funded by the radio, really. And there are lots of German orchestras who aren't able to do what they do and what Berlin does. So, I mean, it's a special case, but it is amazing to see, you know, and they're starting to, you know, be able to meet with friends and, you know, they've been able to go to restaurants for a while now.
crazy, huh? I haven't been to a restaurant.
I mean, it's hopeful.
Yeah.
It makes me hopeful in a way that things are changing, but I haven't visited my parents near Toronto in, you know, since February, and I really want to see them, and also my 102-year-old grandmother. So I'm really trying to still protect myself so that I can go visit them for a couple of weeks, maybe in July.
102. Does she have her wits about her?
She's pretty amazing.
And is this on your mom's or your dad's?
Yeah, my mom's mother, and my mom cares for her too. So, you know, I want to make sure that I'm healthy enough to go see them. So that's a priority for me right now.
Have you been doing FaceTime with them or Zoom?
Oh, of course. Yeah, we talk every couple of days at least, and also my family and my sister in Germany.
Yeah, I haven't seen my parents, you know, for over 3 months. Yeah, my mom is turning, let's see, it's Tuesday. On Saturday, she's turning 93.
Oh, wow.
My dad's 95. Birthday. Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, there's still lots to do. You know, I'm doing everything I can. Like, as you said, you know, asking what is my role. You know, I have certain skills. What can I use them for? What can I do now to help people actually just around me, even like my own community here, like, starting from the very closest. And because, you know, when I start to read, usually I don't read the news because otherwise I just can't function. So, you know, these days it's impossible to not be aware of stuff, and it's so overwhelming, and you can't fix all the problems of the world. So it's, you know, first, you know, try to work on yourself, which, you know, we're all doing, and then as you said, looking to see what is the best use of me, of what I can give, and what can I do like today to help someone, you know, and then, you know, in a few months and long term kind of thing.
Are you still going to the cello every day?
Yeah, not every day. I kind of I want to actually play every day, which is nice. Like because as I said before, it's I think playing an instrument, being able to play an instrument is such an amazing thing. I think people who pick it up as amateurs, like they just really want to do it. Like my dad started playing guitar again as a senior, and it's just to go to the instrument and play, just the feeling of it and being able to create sound. It's a really pleasurable experience. So just even for that, it does help me so much, my soul. So I mean, I'm very, very lucky to be able to do that.
Sure.
And yeah, and I mean, I have little things. I've made so many videos now. There's at least one or two a week. So it's always like learning something for that. And
Like videos of solo stuff, or
I haven't done a solo one. A lot of group or orchestra things that are coming. Some have come out and some are coming out soon. I'll do a couple more small few months, but
and so
yeah,
what's that like? Like
creating virtual videos or creating videos, period.
yeah, because I've really been resisting it,
Yeah,
like because you're not really playing with those people, right?
right. Yeah, it's not a live chamber music experience.
Yeah, you're not, like to me, playing has everything to do with not knowing what's going to come the next moment.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I've done a couple of things with Jonathan, and we'll do more. So we actually I think a couple of weeks ago I got all this stuff off IMSLP and said, okay, we're gonna read duos, and it was so fun. The time passed like so quickly, and he's such an incredible violinist, so I could pick stuff that was really hard for him, and that was just fun for me. And
right,
of course, again, I'm so lucky to have someone I live with who's a fantastic musician that I could. There's tons of repertoire we
right.
use that.
You you did the Revel Duo recently, right? Or did I
Oh
dream?
yeah, no, yeah, we were supposed to play the Revel Duo. So in Kitchener Waterloo for the Chamber Music Society there for Jan Narveson, and because we had to cancel that, I thought let's at least make the audience a video of and thing for my series, and that was my series in Hamilton. I was supposed to do a trio concert, and for that we did a virtual video, and it's interesting because it's, first of all, it's not a live performance. If you play something live on video, it's staying on the internet. So it's not like it's a live performance and if something happens, it's fine because like no one's going to see it again. It's going to be on there forever.
Well, you
To
just
take
got to make
advantage.
sure you take it off.
Yeah. So I mean, making a virtual video, we did the first slow movement of the Mendelssohn piano trio, the D minor with flute, because that was going to be on our program. And we had Angela, the pianist, Angela Park, record the piano part first. And I mean, we've played it together actually. So, we already have an idea of how we like to play it. And then Kylie Mymet, the flute player, she recorded on top of Angela. And they gave me that. And the way Kylie had listened to Angela's playing, I think probably like 50 times before she played it. Playing was very nuanced, and Kylie just matched everything there. It's really, to me, was like a feat, a virtuosic feat of following a recording. And
Right.
then I had to I messed up everything on top of that. But I mean, it was an interesting experience. But I think the result is, it's something else. It's not a live performance. It's not exactly an edited recording because I can't edit like a real recording engineer because I did the editing. But it gives something, and it's beautiful music, and it was really for the audience that was missing that concert. That was its purpose, to give them something, as a replacement for now.
Now, I've never heard of that trio being played on flute instead of violin.
Yeah, I think there's actually a Henley edition of it with it arranged with the flute part. I'm not sure if he approved that or what exactly. I have to check, but it works. It's of course very different, but
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I've been digging through archives, and
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm still just scratching the surface, but not only the art of time, I have like a whole huge box of cassettes, like of my stuff.
Oh yeah,
And I found these, and speaking of Jan Narveson,
yeah,
which I want to ask about Jan in a second, but I found performances from his uh, house from 1982
nice,
with Jane and Winona, and the Mendelssohn D
nice.
minor is one of the pieces.
Well,
Now,
that's great.
yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces of all
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you tell me that he wasn't well, or I heard?
Jan, yeah, last time I spoke to him, he was sick with something, but it wasn't COVID. I mean, he has issues with his hearing, which he deals with the best he can. And I mean, he was still putting on concerts until, I think really the artists were the ones who were needing to cancel. And I was supposed to play a concert for him in July, and he's still hoping it happens. So maybe something will happen. Maybe it'll be some kind of streaming. But yeah, he's still going and wants stuff to happen, and he loves music so much. And yeah, I'm in email contact with him every once in a while.
The last thing I did at his place was a solo recital,
Yeah.
and I remember during intermission. Do you remember how, or at least back then, the green room is just a little room off the living room where the audience is, and uh, I remember hearing through the door, um, well, I've heard pianists sing before while they play, but I've never heard one snort before.
He said that.
No, some
Oh,
audience
someone in the
member.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you were a snorter, you know?
I guess, yeah.
You toned it down over the years.
Well, no, I still make noise, I
I think
think.
you grunt. You
Yeah,
grunt a little.
I grunt.
But I mean, it suits the music. I think most of the
You're a smooth talker. Anyway, I remember just how self-conscious I felt during the second half.
Oh no.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, you know.
the audience is right on top of you, right?
You know, they're listening to us, right? So they're allowed to have say anything they want,
Sure.
but
No,
we're so sensitive.
absolutely.
We're too
Well,
sensitive.
but how can we not be?
Yeah.
We're bearing our soul,
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember that.
Yeah, that would be memorable. Yeah, then there should be like a book of things audience members have said to us. But yeah, we need them. Like we do it for them, right?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking
Like,
about that as well. Like,
yeah.
do we do it for them? I mean, I think it's just this incredible bonus that it's something that really speaks to people and brings them such great pleasure. But, we don't go into it for them. We don't become musicians. Like, I think making music is a deeply, this is not a criticism in any way, but it's a deeply selfish act, right? Like, um, we need to make music. We do it
Hmm.
because we need to, right? Not because it'll make someone happy, don't you think? And
For sure.
again,
Along that, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I don't mean to suggest that it's a negative thing.
Hmm.
Um, but nobody goes into a life of making sacrifices, as an artist, um, with that in mind. I think people choose that path because they have to. They need to.
And so if you need to play, does there need to be an audience? Can you just play at home?
I guess I see what you're saying now, Rachel. There's a fine line. Because in that context, yeah, we are trying to connect with them.
I mean, I guess at some level, most of us at some point have felt like we have to prove something. But I think at some point you let go of that, and it's not about proving something to them. It's more about yourself and
well,
what you're.
another thing I've been thinking about is, the fact that um, I've only wanted to play with players who will push me or elevate me in some sense, right? Like, And
Push
that's,
and elevate are two different things,
well, I
right?
mean, push me
Yeah.
to places I've not been before, right? I don't
Okay.
mean bad places.
Yeah.
And again, that's a selfish thing, right? As opposed to perhaps giving someone an opportunity, a young player who, you know,
That's what you did for me.
no,
So
I know, but
you do that all the time.
I guess,
You
but
definitely do that all the time.
well,
I mean,
it
from my perspective.
it's nice of you to say that. Yeah, I feel like I don't do it enough, maybe.
Mm,
I mean, I hired you because I thought you were a great player,
well, thank you, but I mean, it was a great opportunity for me
right?
at that time, especially, and even
Well,
of course now. But
I'm
yeah,
glad you think so.
yeah, for
What,
sure.
what other nice things do you have to say about me? Just kidding.
I would love to hear your old recordings. You got some
Yeah.
solo things in there too, the
Oh,
cassettes.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
From when I was a teenager, and I mean a ton of stuff, from the '90s. Ton of chamber music.
Hmm.
Um, I did a lot of playing with Joel and Steve back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I just listened to a recital Steve and I played in Brandon in 1994
Oh nice.
that I hadn't heard probably since then.
Wow. Did they already have that hall there? Yeah, of course. They have a really
Yeah,
nice hall, right? Yeah.
yeah. And it was
The Eckergrammaté Hall.
exactly, and that was
Yeah.
I guess they have a big concert every year as part of the competition. They invite.
Right.
So it was strings that year, and they invited Steve to give a recital.
Yeah, that's one thing that this video stuff, doing videos in your home, pop artists, I think, who are on social media, they do this all the time. They know how to speak to their audience, like directly to their audience, and they open up way more than we do. We're so used to just being on the stage and doing our thing, and this in a way, I'm not someone who's necessarily comfortable,
Hmm.
showing up in my home, wherever in my home, and communicating to the public. But I think this has broken down a lot of barriers, at least for someone like me, that feeling like I can speak directly to the audience instead of being just part of the orchestra, or just not being all dressed up in our
Right.
concert clothes and showing a more personal side. It's just people, of course classical musicians do that, but we're really doing it a lot more now, it feels, in a
I
in
think,
a in a positive way.
yeah, I think that's a great
Mm,
thing. I
yeah.
think those classical conventions that we were raised with are a kind of barrier. It puts us that much farther away from the audience. The formality of everything.
Some people saying that classical music is dying, so no one wants no one wants to go in that direction, but I don't think that's true at all.
Well, no, there will always be a place for it, but don't you think that, or I don't know, what's like at the NAC, uh, do you see many young people at the orchestra concerts?
um the regular concerts, not as much. That you do see more young people at pops concerts, which can have all kinds of repertoire in them, and it really depends. And we have these kind of casual Friday concerts, which it changes for those too. It's a shorter concert, different kinds of programming. It can be straight standard programming or something more adventurous. Uh, I feel that when I've been to concerts in Toronto, they have more young people than we do in Ottawa, but I don't know the actual numbers. So, but I don't even like our education department actually. I think they do amazing stuff, and they're really strong, and they do all kinds of things in the community, and across Canada, for giving some kind of exposure to all kinds of music. Actually, not just classical. So that there's at least some exposure. So if someone responds, at least there's a chance for someone to respond to it, if they want to.
What else?
I recently, I mean, I've been exploring repertoire. So I found, my dad actually sent me an article that was in the Star that came from New York Times about uh, an Iranian women composers organization. And
Wow.
I looked up the three that kind of run the organization, and one of them had a solo cello piece, and I saw a YouTube video and it looked cool, so I wrote to her and see if I could purchase that music from her. And I actually was supposed to play all the Bach suites next year, so I've started working on those, and which is great because normally, like, to get anything done, I always have to schedule a concert or else I won't practice.
Right.
So normally I would just, end up learning those really fast in the middle of everything else. And like now I have more of the time to really get into them, and memorize them, which is something that is a big challenge for me, memory.
So are these Iranian composers, are they based in Iran or are they in the
No,
West?
two live in the States and one lives in Europe, I think. But
Uh,
they did grow up there and studied there, at least one of them, before studying elsewhere. And
yeah,
they've been played in New York and stuff, so I guess they're well known on the composer scene, but I didn't know of them before.
yeah, I know nothing about the Western classical scene in Iran. Nothing. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
surprised that there is one, but it's just not something you hear about. Or
yeah, and it sounds like it's very difficult for them to even exist in what they do. I also tonight, for this first time, well, second time, but first time hopefully that it's going to work, I actually made pizza dough, because in Ottawa there's only one place I know that you can get like a Neapolitan pizza, like a really good one.
those are
Toronto,
the
you don't have that problem. But here there's only one place and it's like a 20-minute drive away. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make pizza dough.
and what's the key to good pizza dough?
I
Right.
don't know, because I did it a week ago and it was a disaster. Because
Well,
I'm
try
not good in
again.
the kitchen. So yeah, tonight.
And the Neapolitan, that's the thin crust, right?
Yeah, thin, like kind of bubbles in the crust.
Mm.
And yeah, I hope it works.
Lovely to see your face and hear your
Yeah, you too.
and say hi to Jonathan.
Yeah,
And we'll talk soon, I hope.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
You could
ciao.
fade out on that.